Well, hi everyone. So today I want to show you how to safely remove a silicon chip from a circuit board. I've seen a lot of videos recently where people have been removing chips from boards. They've been not doing it the best way in the world and have been actually damaging chips doing so. So I'm going to start off by showing you the tools I use, which is a flat blade screwdriver, a small pick, which can be useful. The other tool that I also have, but I can't find it at the moment, unfortunately, is a little pry bar. So I'll show a picture of it now. These can be bought on eBay for like $4 or $5, very, very cheap, £4 or £5. The other thing is this chip removal tool, but caution when using one of these. I'll explain that in a little bit. And then for today's exercise, I've got a circuit board with a chip already on there, and I have a new chip that I want to replace it with. So you might do this if you've got a faulty chip, or if you're doing some kind of upgrade, you might want to replace your chip. So I'll put that aside for 1 second. Right, one of the first things to note before you take your old chip off, hopefully you can see that there, I don't know if it will zoom in, is there is a little cutout here on the end of this board, okay, so, and also a line. Now what that is that's the orientation that the chip has to go onto the board before you, so that it goes on the right way around and all the kind of pins are the correct way around. If you don't get the orientation of the chip right, you can end up frying the board, frying the chip, causing all sorts of damage. So make a note of which way the chip is. Some chips have a dot and a line, well, like a cutout and a line. Some chips will have a dot, and some chips you just have to look at which way around the writing is. But whatever you do, make sure that the new chip is going on the same way as the old chip came off. What I normally do is take a photograph of the circuit board before I do anything. So at least then I can kind of roll things back by looking at how it was done before. Okay, so before you start trying to actually remove it with one of these, because this seems like the most obvious tool to use, because you can kind of get your tool on either side and pull it up. If you just do that straight away, the force is not going to be directly upwards because of the way the human body is and the way this circuit board is. So you're going to end up kind of pulling it like this. And when the chip comes off, if you do that, I mean, it's not too bad, that one, but you can end up coming off on an angle, and the next thing is you've bent the pins on the chip. These pins are extremely fragile, especially the little thin parts. So if they get bent, you get maybe 1 or 2 goes at most to straighten them before they just break off. And if they break off, you're in a world of pain, trust me, trying to solder a new pin onto an old pin. So I generally don't use this until the very end. So I'll put this back on for now, just to make the point that I'm making, so I can explain what I normally do. This has obviously been on off loads of times, this chip. So what I do first of all is kind of just start the chip going. If a chip's been on for quite a while, you might find that it's actually stuck in there quite nicely, because there'll be a bit of oxidization between the pins and between the actual socket. So what I do is start off with a flat blade screwdriver, if you can get one in there. So if you can get that in, then gently get that in there and start twisting it from side to side, and keep moving from one side to another. Now in this instance, it's not that easy because I can't really get there because of that component. So this is where you might use the pick, which can just get in there a little bit. You've got to be careful if you're using something like a pick, because it's got a sharp end, so it might scratch something underneath. But because I'm not going against the circuit board, I'm going against a socket, I can, as long as I keep it in the middle, then I know I'm only pressing against the actual underside of the chip and the plastic of the socket, so it's not going to cause me any problems. So just move that gently that way, and again turn it around the other way, just gently at a time. Honestly, it's not something you want to rush these things. Then when you're eventually happy that it's fairly free, then you can go in with your chip removal tool, pop that in and give that a gentle tug, and all of those should come off no problem. Well, this is like this. I'll point out the obvious, hopefully, which is this removal method only works if you've got a socket on your circuit board. If your chip is soldered directly to the circuit board, then that method won't work. I'll put a link to a video below, which I've done, which shows you how to desolder things. So if you need to desolder a chip from a board, then I'll link the video below, and that's a completely different method altogether. So that's our chip removed. So the next thing we want to do is we want to fit our new chip. So this is a brand new chip, and it is very important to point out that if you look at the way this chip is orientated, I'll try and show you here. So if you look at the way that chip's orientated, you see the legs are not parallel. They are not completely parallel. So what happens then is if you try and put that into the circuit board, you'll get, if you put one set of pins in, you look at the other side and it's not even near the board, because it's too, these legs are too splayed out, and they all come like this. This is the way, every time I've got a brand new chip, this is the way they all come. Something to do with the manufacturing process, so they won't go in like that. Now, it sounds obvious, but I've seen people not notice that. So what I do to get these legs kind of parallel so that they'll go into your socket is I use a hard surface. So I've got a drinks mat here, and what I do is I put it on its side against the hard surface, hold it with your fingertips, and then with your thumbs, get all the legs flat, and then just gently push the chip slightly, just to get one side of the legs to move. You might be able to see now that one side's moved. Turn it over, and then again, holding with your fingertips, thumbs on there. You're not pushing the legs, you're pushing on the body of the chip. Just another little tiny bend. What you're aiming to do is to get the legs to bend up here. You don't want the legs to bend at the end, at the thin bits, because if they bend in and the kind of back of the part here isn't bent, then what happens is when you put it into the socket, they'll just kind of all kind of go like this, and instead of they'll kind of curl up, and you've damaged your chip. So you need these to be parallel. So when they're parallel like that, by being bent from this end here, you get your circuit board. We remember our orientation because we made a note of it before. I've got the dot and the line at this side, and just gently place it onto the socket. Make sure before you do anything that you're happy that that is going to go in. That could do with a tiny bit more. So I'm going to give it a tiny bit more. Now that chip should go quite nicely onto there. So I can feel that now. It's kind of sitting in its little kind of socket quite nicely. Final visual check. Make sure all the chip legs are kind of lined up. There's none at the end. There's none stuck out. And then gently to start with, and then a little bit firmly push that chip in. You'll feel it either thud or click or something as the kind of bottom of the chip makes contact with the actual socket, and that chip's good to go. So if you've got something like a different type of board like this is a memory expansion for an Amiga 500. This has got lots of chips on. So again, it's just a case of trying to get under here with your screwdriver, release it gently on the other side, start it moving. Get your chip extractor, and they come off a treat. If you just try and pull them off like from there, I don't even want to do it because I don't want to damage this board, but you will potentially, if it's been on there a while, pull them out, bend the pins, and then you've got to straighten all the pins. So I'll just put that back on there. And again, just a gentle but firm. Once you're sure that all the legs are in the right place, gentle but firm, and you'll feel that there. Okay, and that's essentially all there is to it. So thank you for watching the video. As I say, I put a link in the description below to how to desolder components if you need to do that. If you've liked this video, then please consider liking the video for me on the button below, and also please consider subscribing to my channel, because I've got lots more soldering videos and electronics videos that will be coming along soon. Thank you.